dangerous dominant beast in the forest, ready to devour whatever prey wandering about, is the exact analogy that I would use to describe this beast. The bike is far more powerful than you could ever need in the real world. At a massive 143 horsepower, 10,000 RPM, 77 Newton meters at 8,500 RPM. Now this is barely anything, especially compared to other 1000s, like its bigger brother the CBR 1000R, Double R and Triple R at over 170 horsepower and the Triple R being over 200 horsepower. Even other naked bikes like the Gixxis 1000 at 153 horsepower, if I'm not wrong. This might just be the absolute weakest piece of shit 1000cc bike out there. That is only when speaking in relative terms. Objectively speaking, this bike is fast. As long as you get over 6,000 RPM, which you really don't need to, you will get to 190 kilometers per hour, which is exactly what I was looking for when I was looking for upgrading the Haojin Warrior.
Mr. CBR 1000, what are you doing behind me? Finally have an open road.
I did overestimate the XT660, it didn't even come close.
.165 kilometers per hour, although it's somewhat of a downhill, so I wouldn't really say it counts, but I did get to the speed.
I really wanted an off-road / enduro that could get to those speeds, but I don't know, maybe the T7 too big, MT-07 competent enough, but I wasn't really sure about the 75 horsepower if it would be enough. MT-09 would be perfect, but unfortunately I couldn't find one. 800 GS BMW, same problem as the T7, too big. The XT was basically the perfect bike if I didn't care for top speed. The torque on that bike was just the best.
That has to be so uncomfortable. You got power, but I pity you. This guy is completely hunched over, but look at that, completely hunched over. Don't break on us.
Another very important thing in my list was the sitting position. The one on this bike isn't the most neutral, especially for the knees. It's pretty aggressive, but for the top half, it's like 90% good. You're not really upright as you would be on the XT or the Haojin Warrior, but you're pretty upright for something so powerful. Like with this trip to Naivasha, my nigga on the CBR 1000, I did say he was pretty beat. And that was approximately only 140 kilometers journey to and from. Just imagine a trip to like Mombasa from Nakuru, 660 kilometers. That would completely destroy your back. Those are not for old men like me. These aggressive bikes are fast, but you will appreciate the upright argos of street bikes, I promise you. Like both these goons did 230 to 260 kilometers per hour and I barely did 190. I just kept wondering when. Were we even using the same road? I was pretty shocked. I, on the other hand, was pretty stoked to get to 192 kilometers per hour, like a loser.
Yeah, another open road. I'm actually going to gear down. I want to go from zero.
Why are you gay?
Front shower suspensions and one rear monoshock. They're just phenomenal. I thought they would be too hard, but they're honestly just right. Smooth enough that it can just barely take on our shitty terrain. Just barely. This road is so shit I almost lost my number plate. Were it not for the indicators holding the damn thing, that would have been it. So definitely not good for off-road, unless you go very slow. And if you know these bikes, they really don't like that. Although this one less than the fared ones.
You get it? If you don't get it, forget about it.
For those who don't get it, these big bikes actually built up quite a bit of heat. Although this one has never really gone past 105 degrees. And they're actually very hard to control at slow speeds. dual radial mounted 4-piston calipers boarding down a set of 310mm floating disc for the front and a rear twin piston caliper on a 250mm disc for the back. These are fantastic, especially the front ones. The rear ones are good, but the front ones will definitely get your bike to stop. These are definitely the most important parts of your bike, I promise you that, and Honda did a pretty good job with them.
What was that?
The bike is an AFI, which is fantastic. So far I've never had any problems like with cold start or anything like that. Electric start as usual. Apparently you can't kick anything that is more than 450cc because you don't squat, so they don't bother.
Makes me wonder what else I don't know.
Do you know you're supposed to work out your lower body, too?
Bruh.
But it's fine, especially these Japanese bikes almost never fail you in this regard. Maybe once in a while, when it's too old, we'll see. The only problems, and probably the biggest one with these bikes, is maintenance cost and spare parts availability. Some parts may be available, but you still need to fundraise in order to afford them. That's why if you don't want to waste money on a girl, get this bike, especially Hondas. They have a reputation for being pretty overpriced. Like for example, the chain on this bike can cost you upwards of 8,500 bob.
What?
While that on the Haojin water is under 400 bob. The tires on this one specifically are like 40,000 bob. And the tires on the Haojin water are 3,500 bob. That's basically a rough estimate of what you should expect from bikes like this. That's why when most people get accidents, they just try to sell them for parts or whatever. It's going to be very expensive to try and bring it back up. And if whatever you need is not available, you will need to traverse the Alps and shit to get one. You will really hustle to get it. Fuel consumption is pretty decent. This is something that I was really afraid of, but this one does 17 kilometers per liter, which is absolutely fantastic for this much power. The XT ranged about 16 to 21 kilometers per liter, so
If I want to turn this bike around, even while using the stand, it's so heavy and annoying, as you can see. With the Haojin water, I usually try to hold this from behind here. So when I get to a place like this, I usually, if it's a downhill, I just switch off the engine and let the bike cruise. Don't like talking in front of people when I'm not talking to them. So until an uphill and then choop, I completely switch off the key because of the fun. I don't want my batteries to start draining when the engine is off. That is the last thing I want. Without the battery, you have to always push the bike to start it. Too inconvenient. When the road is like this, it's not so bad.
Stay safe, ride safe.
Taken to 50 car. I think this is gross. Hata hajaniona. Useless. focused on the road. That is good to be focused on the road. Yeah, I just assume that the road is clear because you have gone. You are so big and tough. Doesn't matter what knocks you, you won't be toppled over. Stupid. A motorcycle wanna be here. You make sure you leave them behind or you just let them go. If you're powerful enough to dictate your own terms, leave them behind. If you're not, those are the most dangerous people on these roads. Up to gear 6. Don't have to be any lower than that. More than enough power in reserves. Cool. At a place like this, you can always lane split or filter or whatever they call it. Danger is not that high. Because for the most part they can see you and or hear you.